the capitalistic way of developing this country, it's a huge challenge because we need to do lots of extraction, be it water, be it sand and gravel, anything that could be maximized for people's development. These issues about water, drainage, land, even the simple comprehensive land use plan, it will be affected by the impact of climate change.
Cordaid is the Catholic Organization for Relief and Development Aid. We're members of the Caritas Network. We're also members of the CIDSE Network. We're also a member of the Partners for Resilience Alliance. The Partners for Resilience is an alliance of 5 Netherlands-based organizations working in Central America, Africa, and South and Southeast Asia. One of our focus countries is the Philippines. The Philippines is extremely vulnerable to climate change, with as much as 70% of its cities located along the coastline. Regular flooding in these cities undermines infrastructure, disrupts economic activity, and impedes the delivery of basic services.
So, panahon sa climate change, there is na sa climate change, epektado po ng ato ang barangay, sama sa sobrang init, na inahitabo nga grass fire, no? So katulong na gyud nahitabo nga na grass fire, ug sa sobrang nga ulan, gamay lang gani nga ulan mo kuan dayon mulunok dayon ang atong mga sityos. So mo kining problema sa among drainage, no? Sa problema po sa basura diha sulod sa atong barangay ug sa gawas po sa atong barangay.
We advocate an approach called integrated risk management. Integrated risk management is a systematic integration of disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and environmental management and restoration, based on an assumption that disasters will increase in frequency and intensity as a result of climate change and will be further compounded as a result of our degrading ecosystem and environmental services.
So mo na nga naghimo mi og participatory disaster risk assessment. So mo to nga nag-hazard mapping mi, no? Nag-hazard mapping mi sa kada sityos. Hazard mapping sa kalamidad sama sa typhoon, sa pagbaha, sa linog o sa sunog.
Allowing the people to understand, especially when we talk about risks, climate risk assessment, the landscape approach is very powerful. Powerful in a sense that people can sense how important is the ecosystem-based approach. Like what's the relationship with people living in the lowland areas linked to the upland areas, people living in the river systems, people living in the ridge or in the mountains. They can see the connection.
The Secretary Chaplaincy started this urban resilience project, but we came to a point that we could say we cannot do it all by ourselves. We cannot do it alone. We have to work with groups who are willing to help and who has the capacity to help, like the government, like some non-government organizations or people's organizations, and there are a lot of these organizations.
Based on the assessment that we did, one of the crucial problem that we see is the open defecation in the major areas in Hagobiao. There are also problem in waste disposal that cause flooding. And also we found out in the springs and wells that we have the water contamination. From these 4 critical problems that we see in Hagobiao, we need to have an integrated approach to deal with this problem. First is With the open defecation problem, we need to have the communal septic tank, especially to the vulnerable families who are living in the flooded areas. And also with the waste disposal, we have a strategy on waste banking, vermicomposting, and eco-blocks, and other livelihood initiatives that link with the waste disposal. With the flooding issue, we try to have a drainage management at the local level, at the same time with the landscape level approach in terms of drainage management. For the water contamination, since most of the vulnerable families are living in Hagobiao uses the deep well, and we all know that it's already contaminated. One of the strategies that the project lead is the water electrolysis. It means electrolyzing this water and make into a higher pH level, and it can be used for the domestic use and drinking water. All these things that we have here is the risk. If we will not solve this in the future, there's a big disaster that will happen or a risk that will happen in the community. But we wanted to solve this in an integrated way. So that's why we have this integrated risk management. We all know that in the urban setting, issues are very complex and integrated. So the issue of flooding cannot be addressed in one barangay, but it should be a landscape approach. Means all the neighboring barangay that are affected with that kind of problem should be part of action to resolve the problem.
If there's an ownership of the process, again, who will say no? Who will say no to that? But again, it has to be a well-defined decision-making. It has to be understood. At the same time, it should be taken from the people themselves.
We are really grateful that the barangay is now active with the involvement of this program. Not just the barangay, but also the private sectors and also the church. They're also involved, and we can see that we are helping each other. Like, we are already concerned with the cleanliness of the environment, like the dredging of the canal. Certainly, it will solve the flood problem of the other areas.
To sustain the project, to sustain this livelihood that we have started, we try to bring it to the local government. Kung baga yung sa barangay unit namin, yung barangay namin, pinapasok namin doon yung plano namin sa urban resiliency, pinapasok namin doon sa plano ng barangay para ma-sustain siya, because it's the only way na to sustain.
Dako kay katabang ma'am gawa sa mga membro, labi na itong mga silingan na mo nga wasa kitaw income. Sama na mga plastic bottle nga mong mapalit. Trabahoon sana sa mga silingan na mo nga wasa income, labi na ng mga medyo senior citizen na magpanit lang sa mineral, paliton sana mo 3 pesos kada kilo. Ginansya na kay na sila pod nya usapod naka-income sila. Nya sa amo sang mga membro sad, ang silbi ang ila sang ipanitan ug amo na sang ma-dispose nga to sa dako na nga kanang silbi timbangan, nakaginansya gud mi nagyapon mi mabahin gyapon. Dako jud kay katabang ma'am sa barangay, sa mga drainage kay labi na ng mga plastic bottle ug di na mo makuha sa kada adlaw. Murag adto na paingos kanal, so usa gina mo stock up sa drainage sad. Mas labing maayo nga naami daghan ming membro, daghan ming scrappers, at least daghan ming makuha kada adlaw. Kanang 100 kilos sa matag adlaw nga masud na mo sa junk shop, nga nakuha na mo na sa matag area, sa kanal ba or napalit ba namo sa karsada. So ari na sa mo junk shop, so di na nakabarang ato kay nakuha naman namo siya.
Looking forwards, Cordaid is very committed to be able to support communities and local actors in the Philippines to be able to identify critical risks that they face, develop strategies as a basis of working together, and being able to implement interventions through an integrated risk management approach to be safer in the future.
If this will be replicated, it will have a kind of massive positive effect, no, for each community to really be resilient in whatever forms of climate and disaster impacts.
I hope na with the people of the community who are starting to participate and cooperate, magiging masusustain. I believe masustain talaga eh. Challenges is there. There are a lot of challenges, but I can see that little by little ang mga tao ay starting to participate, starting to cooperate, and starting to come out